Hi guys, this is Finn, back with another video. A while ago I made a promise that I would discuss some of the modifications I've done to the bike, and I've made some recent changes, and I've just been experimenting overall what works and what doesn't, so I'm going to be repeating myself quite a bit with as far as like what's good and what's bad. But I organized what I'm going to be discussing today by my little cheat sheet here, and we're going to start with performance, some of the emission stuff that I did, protection, comfort, and the miscellaneous mods. So starting with performance, I have the Vortex ECU, which is underneath the seat, of course. And because I can't compare it to the stock system running, you know, the stock exhaust and the stock ECU, I really can't make a comparison, but all I gotta say is that this bike runs very well and very smooth. It does sometimes flame out on occasion, but I believe I have fixed that by setting the idle a little higher. Previously, it was very, very low, and man, I just always had a hard time keeping the bike running, but my friend told me, hey, you should get the idle up, and that's what I did, and ever since then, it's actually been performing very well. So the Vortex ECU, it is limited to how much you can program it. It's not as nice as the Yamaha Power Tuner app that you can get on your phone with the FX and F models. And for the price, I think that they charge you for this thing, it should have more programming capabilities. You can get it sent in to Vortex or someone who has a computer that can reprogram it. But I just left it the way it came from Tokyo Mod, so I didn't make many changes. And I'm running map number 6, I believe, which is the best power map for the trail. And I did contact Vortex, and they say that is the most linear overall map. So I've seen sometimes on people's sheets it says 7, like the enduro map is the softest hitting, even though I found this to actually be even smoother, the trail power map. So that's my take on that. Next thing is the FMF Q4 exhaust. Now this is a really nice exhaust for the money. It's about 360 bucks, and I think it has the perfect amount of noise. When I'm riding on the trail, I'm not trying to create like chaos and, you know, be alerted and alert other people. So I like to run something that is, you know, like I said, fairly tame and fairly quiet, and this does the trick. Some other exhausts like the Yoshimura, I have heard complaints about people saying it does get buzzy and annoying on the highway, but this thing I've had zero issues, and I did keep the baffle in, and it has the spark arrestor in that baffle, so I don't want to take that out. I've been happy with that. As far as suspension goes, I have not done anything to the suspension. It is completely stock. The previous owner did have it resprung for his weight, and all I gotta say is it feels excellent. I have not had any problems with the suspension, front or rear. I do notice quite a bit of a difference when I do the hardening and softening, just here on the compression. I haven't done a whole lot of messing around with the rebound, especially on the rear with the fast and slow rebound, but that's because I've been fairly happy with it, and why change it if you like it? Okay, and the next thing here is, as you may see, I have the G2 Ergonomics Throttle Tamer. When I got this bike initially, on my first video I complained about how twitchy the throttle was. And I think that mainly had to do with me coming from a carbureted 4-stroke bike. As you may know, I rode a 2006 KTM 525 XC, and that had a very linear, smooth, progressive power feel from the bottom end. And this is being a 4-stroke and a race-derived engine, it does have a little bit more snappiness. So I think the G2, for the money, this is definitely a great value, just because it's 70 bucks and it really changes the characteristics of the bike. I no longer have issues being jerked constantly in single track. You know, if you just gradually push in or pull the throttle, it activates smoothly. So I'm a big fan of that. Plus it's a nice billet aluminum or some kind of aluminum construction, and probably the best throttle tube that I've ever owned. Next thing, I guess this somewhat counts as performance, is tires. So currently right now I'm running the Shinko MX216s, and those are a 90 by 90 profile. Right now I think they have around 800 miles on them, mostly off-road. I did have to ride the street to get here, but overall I would say it's been holding up pretty nicely. You can see on the side there, yeah, it's, you know, making a little bit of a weird shape, but it has not affected the performance off-road at all. And these corner, I have a lot more confidence than I do with the Kenda Parker DT fronts that I had, so definitely a thumbs up with these. For the rear, I'm running the MotoZ or MotoZ, whatever they want to be called, Desert HT Tractionator. These have quite a few more miles. I got around 1,400, I believe. They are starting to wear a little bit thin on the top tread there. Side knob activation for the dirt is decent. If you want my final answer on these, I don't think I'm going to purchase these again, but they are great if you're doing a little bit of road. They're rated as an 85% off, 15% road, and they're meant for the desert. And I think that's what these tires are great for. As long as you're not riding too aggressively, they're very good. So, emissions. As you may know, I did do the charcoal canister delete as well as the air injector delete that is right here. And the reason I did that was just because the Vortex ECU no longer utilizes those systems, and what's the point of having them on there if they're not being used, read, or computed, whatever. So I decided to take it off. I think it did make airflow a little bit better through this right radiator, but I don't know, I just kind of wanted to get rid of the weight. I believe on my scale it ended up being about 1.9 pounds or 2 pounds roughly. So that's a little bit of weight, but I decided to keep the what is this thing called? The oil catch can. So the oil catch can, honestly, I think the engineering from Honda is really good. I like the fact that it's tucked in the corner, and some guys will run a line that they replace this with a line that goes at the bottom of the bike and comes down, and I personally don't like that. I wouldn't want oil dripping on the ground. I like the fact that it's being catched in here and not making a mess. And I've never had any oil stuck in there because I believe I'm filling my bike correctly. I hope so. And so no issues there. But I think there are people that wheelie and sometimes oil gets flung out for some reason. I don't exactly know the reasonings, but that might be good to have. So I support that. Just leave it on and be done with it. So the next thing as well is, this is just going to be a niche sort of thing here, but I decided to leave the thermostat alone. And I think 99% of people who are buying these bikes should just not touch it. And it has a lot of benefits. I believe that it allows the bike to cool a little bit better and warm up faster, and just overall increase the reliability of the engine. So I advocate against taking it off, just because, you know, why? Unless you're doing some kind of crazy racing, I really see no reason, or unless you know how to control your engine temperature very well. This thing has never failed on me yet, and these things don't fail easily. It takes a lot for these things to malfunction. You have to run your bike extremely hot. But that's my take on that. Leave it on. And by the way, I'm running I don't know if you can see that, that's the Graves smog block off plate, and that just makes it look a little bit nicer rather than keeping the stock one and plugging it up. I don't know, I like the look of that one a little bit better. Oh, and I also forgot to mention these little mounts. I unfortunately do not know enough about these. These came with the bike. They're supposed to increase the, I think, rigidity, or you can change the feel and flex of the frame. I don't know. The frame feels very solid to me, and again, I haven't ridden with its stock, with the stock mounts, so I can't speak for those, but they're on the bike. Let's talk about protection. So, of course, you can see there's some Cycra Handguards right here. These are okay. I think they've held up pretty well, and they just work like regular handguards, I guess. I don't really have a brand preference for handguards. I think most of them do a good job. I have heard some people complain about Acerbis, the plastics ripping off, which I do agree with. These Cycra, the plastics are much more durable than my old Acerbis. I had to buy like a new plastic set on those. Next thing is the Acerbis frame guards. So unfortunately, these do not fit. They don't make these for the X or the L. You can only buy them for the 2017 or through 2019 450 RX. The right side fits fine, but the left side is a little bit, I had to DIY it, and it's this problem right here. So this is actually for the kickstand sensor, and the X shares the same frame as the L, so that they incorporated that. And you just have to do a little bit of cutting here, and then it fits all right. And I just put a zip tie there, but the included ones are pretty good, and that bolts on right there. Let's talk about the swing arm covers. So these fit exactly perfectly, and they're from a 2017 through 2019 450 RX. I'll leave the part number and link for these in the description below, so you can take a look at those. They've been holding up very well, no complaints there. Next thing is the radiator braces. Now, let's see if I can find these. These are pretty sturdy, and I do not see these breaking anytime soon. They have like a mount or like a support beam that goes across, so they're very rugged, and they look bulky, and they are bulky. They weigh about 2 pounds, I think, for the whole system, for the covers, or whatever these things are called. I think radiator covers and then radiator braces. So if you don't want to add a lot of weight to your bike, you can just buy the braces and use your stock plastic louvers. But I just figured that the metal on metal adds a little bit more rigidity and makes it a little bit more stable. But so far so good. Haven't had any radiator problems. As you can see, you got that little scorpion guy. I think that's pretty cool. As far as installation, they were a pain in the ass. I thought the included instructions were pretty bad. There was one video of a guy installing them on a KTM, which I could somewhat translate and use that video to help me install it on here. But the parts did not fit perfectly. They were just a little bit off. I had to bend it like crazy. I mean, I was swearing in the garage for like about 4 hours or something. I was pretty pissed off, but I'm happy I've got them on, and I think they're going to protect the radiators for sure. So I think they're okay. If you have the patience to put on a set of radiator guards and braces, then give these a shot. But there are better companies out there, I think, that make them for a little bit cheaper. I'll try to find something in the description and put it in the video description so you can take a look at those. But this was fairly expensive and fairly tedious to install, so I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. It does protect the bike or the radiators, but it also, installation and price was not that great. Let's talk about the skid plate. So this is the AXP Skidplate. Really like this thing. Again, the installation was actually a pain in the ass. This did not fit. the one with the linkage cover was just pressed on the linkage way too much. The way they molded the plastic, it just does not fit the bike. So I had to get a blowtorch, melt the plastic, and reshape the rear end with a vise. So that took me about 20 minutes to fully figure out and do. And I'm also not running the bolts, I don't know if you can see that go to the coolant reservoir tank, because at the end of the day, you know, when you change your oil, and we'll get to this in a second, but if you want to remove your skid plate, you got to deal with like 5 bolts or something. But I got away with having 3, so 2 up here. These you don't have to take off, they just mount onto this metal bracket. And then there's one, I don't know if you can see that one in the hole there. So three bolts instead of 5, you know, that's much better. And speaking of the oil, like I mentioned, it does have a hole where you can drain the oil, but let's face it, if you drain the oil, it's gonna just make a mess. So I just take it off and change the oil that way. And you can still take the plastic covers off with this installed. So if you need to inspect something real quick, you can do that. It is a little bit difficult. You have to bend this down, but it does work. So this is the PC Racing filter skin. And what this is essentially just a cover for your air filter, and basically gives it another layer of protection from dust and dirt. So both the oil or air filter as well as the skin are oiled, and it catches pretty much everything, and I rarely ever have dust or any stuff in my air box, so I do like it. Although installing it is really a difficult task. You have to basically make a hole in the skin, and over time, see, it's already kind of stretching. I don't know how long these are gonna last, and they were 20 bucks for a piece of fabric, so I'm not really too fond of that. I think they should have priced it at like 10 bucks for 3 filter skins. That would have been a little bit better. But overall, I think they're pretty good. I feel a little bit safer, have a little bit better peace of mind when I'm riding out in the desert, especially here because it's so dusty. I want all the protection I can get. But if you're riding in the East Coast where it rains all the time, I would just get a regular filter and call it a day. Don't need to run this stuff. But again, if you just want that extra layer of protection, it might be worth considering. And behind it, I have the PC Racing Filter Gasket, which is essentially just a neoprene ring that is underneath, that basically you rest your air filter on top of that rubber piece, and it creates a perfect seal. So you no longer have to mess with grease or anything, and you literally install that once and never have to touch it again. So I do really like that. I hate dealing with grease, especially inside this air box. It's a pain in the butt to clean. So I do like that product a lot. So let's jump into comfort. And one of the things that I find very nice are these Fastwayy Evolution 4 Footpegs. And they've been holding up very, very well. They've taken all the abuse. As you can see, they do have scratches on them, but it hasn't been a problem for these guys. As well as these little screws. They have not bent or notched up or anything. The only thing that's gotten in them is a little bit of dust, but hey, that's normal. So I find Footpegs to be a really good upgrade for pretty much any bike, just because it allows for a larger surface area for your feet, and I think gives you more control over your bike, because I'm mostly controlling my bike with my Footpegs, and I find that to be really nice. Next thing, I don't have it installed on the bike, and you'll just have to take my word for it, but it's the Seat Concepts seat. So I have the Seat Concepts Comfort Tall. That came with the bike as well. And I do like running the regular seat when I'm doing regular trail rides. When I'm going for longer trips, I love the Seat Concepts just because it's comfortable. And this seat gets very uncomfortable very quickly. But like I said, for trail riding, I'm usually standing and not sitting. And I do wear padded bicycle pants. So that's another tip right there. If you don't want to buy a seat concept seat, but you just want a little bit of extra cushion, buy a pair of bicycle padded seats from Amazon. I think you get like a pair for 25 bucks. And that's proven to work out pretty well for me. Next thing is the flex handlebars. So I do really like these. I've never heard of these or tried them out until I got this bike. And they do have quite a bit of flex in them right now. And that's because I'm using different rubber dampeners, I think they're called. And you can get all sorts of colors. So right now, I think blue is the second softest, and the inner one is for the compression, and the outer one is for the rebound. But I think green is the absolute softest, and black is the absolute stiffest. So I think it's really cool that you can adjust how stiff you want it, and you can adjust the compression and rebound, like the suspension. And it basically is having an extra set of suspension on your bike. I find that my wrists are very they're still fine even after 3-4 hours of riding. I'm not tired, and they just take the abuse out of rocks and hard hits. So check these out if you're having wrist problems. Even though I'm not having any wrist problems, I find them to be enjoyable just because I can ride longer. The next thing is just a small one, but it's these pillow top grips. I find these to be much better than stock because I feel like they are a little bit more squishy, and they still have excellent grip, but they're just grips, so they're nothing crazy special, and they're, I think, only 10 bucks or something, but I like them a lot. Let's see what else there is. I think next thing we'll do is just jump into the miscellaneous stuff, and there's so much on this bike, I might have forgotten some stuff, but let's just get right into it. Obviously, the first thing you see here is the IMS. This is this 3-gallon IMS tank. And this has proven to be really nice for those longer extended trips, just because you don't have to worry about running out of fuel. And I can get now anywhere from, I think 120 miles is my absolute limit with this tank, and before I was only maybe able to get like 80 miles with the stock tank. So if you're sick and tired of carrying extra fuel, just get the tank and put it on your bike. But if you have no reason to upgrade your fuel tank, I suggest the stock one is honestly built really well. I do like how the stock cap cover for the fuel tank is a little bit more rigid than this. This is just like a little flimsy plastic thing, and you have to install your own vent hose breather thingy. And the stock setup is just much better designed, just because it already has that breather hose thing built in the fuel cap. It has like an anti-spill system already in there, and it fits the bike a little bit better. Plus it's made out of titanium. But I haven't felt any weight change by installing this. It's been just as nimble, just as light. So there's my take on that. And this guy right here is I think it's just a USB charger for my GPS. So this just hooks up directly to the battery, and I put a little silicone protector on the top port there just so no dust or dirt gets in, but I haven't put it in the bottom one yet. But that's been very good for charging your GPS. And speaking of that, I do also have a RAM mount mounted right here onto the flex bar, and that just keeps the GPS intact. I use a Garmin 64 ST. It's not as high end as like I think it's called the Montana. It doesn't have a big screen, but it's good enough for what I use. And now that we're on the handlebars, let's talk about these little Enduro Engineering lever grips. So these are really nice, and they're only about 10 bucks. And what they do is they just give you a little bit extra grip. In addition, when you have your gloves on, I mean, there's no way this is going to slip from your fingers. These are polished aluminum, I think, from the factory, so they can sometimes be a little slippery. And these just ensure that you're getting a very tactile feel from pulling the clutch as well as pulling the brake. So for 10 bucks, they just heat shrink around your levers, and they're awesome. I did end up getting this billet kill switch from JCR Speed Shop. So I know you can get these on Amazon, I think for like 10 bucks or something, but you have to wire the thing yourself. You have to do some soldering, and you have to somehow connect it to the main port wherever this connects to. But what's nice about JCR Speed Shop is this is plug and play. So they already have the port where this needs to plug into assembled on there. So this literally took me like 5 minutes to install, and it's worked every time. It's got a nice button feel, and they also make it for the switch button, but I didn't decide to get that because the start is right there. And yeah, it just mounts directly onto the clutch assembly. So that's kind of cool. And the other thing too is the Tusk Streetlegal Kit. So right now I am running, here is the on switch. I'm basically running the full program. Blinkers, brake light. Let me see if this works, do some gymnastics here. Yeah, so brake light, which is mounted right there, by the way, this little wire, and as well as the horn. So that's kind of nice if you want to stay 100% street legal. You would need to have a mirror as well. I just use a double take mirror, and this thing has also been really awesome. I transferred these over from my old bike, and what's nice about the Honda is you can use the stock. It actually has like a place where you can mount your ram mount. But yeah, the Street Legal Kit has been proven to be very helpful. I do like the horn because sometimes if I need to grab my friend's attention, I can do that instead of revving the bike or screaming with my helmet, even though they won't be able to hear me. So yeah, I do like the Street Legal Kit. Another thing too is obviously the steering stabilizer. I don't have any experience with them. This also came with the bike, and I really haven't touched it that much. I think the bike is pretty stable enough at high speeds. And I don't know if I would personally invest into one just because I haven't felt the difference with or without one. But for my old KTM, I think I would have considered getting one just because the head shake was so bad. But on this bike, I've never had a problem, and maybe it is because of this thing. So I can't comment too much on that, but there are reviews out there that explain what this does much better than me. And also I got these fork bleeders. So there's not any air in them right now, but I think it's like literally 17 bucks off of Rocky Mountain or wherever you want to go, Amazon. And basically they just take the air and pressure out of the forks, because over time it does build up, and it does say in the manual that you should bleed them out every once in a while. So I don't have to bust out the screwdriver to bleed them. I can literally just push the top of that and then the job's done. So I think that is pretty much it as far as mods go. I do have one more that I don't think I covered, but it was this Zeta Sprocket cover, and I really do like this cover. I think it does offer some side protection. It still looks fairly new. There aren't that many scratches on it. You know, running the stock one, it's basically just a full plastic cover, and over time dust and dirt and grime and shit can just build up and accumulate in there. And I just like the fact that this is a more open system, and quite frankly I doubt there's really a big difference in noise between this and the stock one. If you're really picky about noise and you want it as quiet as possible, yeah, maybe get the stock one back on there. But I do still run, I'm running the stock sprockets as well as the stock chain. So no changes there. It's been holding up very well, and I'm at the 2,200 mile mark, so no issues there. I do have a little bit of cleaning to do, but that's that. I did also install some wheel weights, and those are pretty self-explanatory. They just balance the wheels, and I don't exactly remember the brand that I used for that. As far as everything else goes, I think that is pretty much it. If I did miss anything, I think the only thing I guess is these little donut grips, I think they're called, or donut grip thingies, I forget. But I was getting blisters in my palm just from rubbing, and with these I don't anymore. So they're like $5 or $7 or something, and they're worth it. One more thing too, I keep saying this, oh, one more thing, but the LED, I did replace this bulb. This was a halogen bulb from the factory, and I did replace it with like a cheap LED bulb, and I made a video on it, and it wasn't very good just because I couldn't get the lighting right. And I just learned the simple fact, I'm not going to ride this thing at night. I really don't have any plans to get caught in the dark, and if I do, this can get me out of a situation in a pinch, but I'm not going to rely on this for night riding. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this long video. I mean, I think it's probably over 30 minutes at this point, but that is everything that I have installed on the bike. And it's been quite a process. I'm just trying to figure out and experiment what works well, what doesn't. And maybe the next bike I get, I probably will like to leave a lot of stuff stock, just because I think the manufacturer does a really good job with fitment and stuff. So that's my little pitch on that. But yeah, let me know if there's anything maybe that I missed that I didn't catch here. You can leave me a note in the comments. But thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.